Welcome back. Dyslexia is the most common learning disability, and up to 20% of people are impacted by it. It's often seen as a bad, maybe even a negative thing.
But during this Dyslexia Awareness Month, Decoding Dyslexia Utah wants to help people realize learning a different way can actually be a real advantage.
I agree. Well, here with us today is Madeline Hymas, an artist from BYU who created Dyslexia Advantage art installation to help raise awareness. And we also have Carrie Atkinson here from the organization Decoding Dyslexia Utah. And I want to start with how this became a strength and not necessarily a weakness as some perceive it to be.
Well, growing up, I definitely always felt like it was a weakness. It wasn't until I was in college and did research of my own that I actually learned that there is a very strong advantage side to dyslexia. A couple of those things are like understanding things through stories, big picture reasoning, being able to take a vast variety of information and understand patterns and connections between it and execute something based on that information.
And a lot of that struggle, I think, for younger kids is that the fact that it hasn't even been diagnosed yet.
Yeah.
And so you have to cope until an adult figures out that's what it is.
Yeah, I also think the way that our education system deals with it, specifically around the language that's used, you know, diagnosage as a word, or disability. I think if we could switch those words to things like identify or learning difference instead of learning disability, it could do a lot to help get rid of some of the shame that develops as a dyslexic person growing up, that's kind of apart from the actual struggle that can, you know, affect others. So.
Yeah. Carrie, tell us a little bit about the event, the Decoding Dyslexia. Where is it being hosted?
It's at the Utah Cultural Center in West Valley, and Madeline's going to be our speaker. We're also showing us some of her art. She has a great art piece that's interactive that's going to be on display for the month. So it's Tuesday night, tomorrow at 6 is dinner, and then she'll be speaking at 7. It's very family friendly, and we hope to have policymakers, educators, and families show up and learn something that can be a struggle, can also be a positive.
Let's talk about your art installation. Tell us about it.
So there's 3 components to it: my personal experience, the interactive one, and also an educational one. When I started doing it, I didn't really know what dyslexia was, even though I had been in special ed for my whole life. I was a senior in college at this point in time. So when I found out about it, I was super empowered.
Wait, you didn't know about that?
I didn't know what dyslexia really was, and most people don't, actually. They only know it as a sort of disability, as a way that, you know, mix things up, like all the sort of common misconceptions. But dyslexia is a lot more than that. It's a completely different brain structure, and there's a lot of advantages that come along with the struggle that aren't known, and I didn't know any of that. And so when I learned, I became really empowered, and so I created this piece on it, and yeah, it's hopefully done some good.
Wow. Wow. I mean, you don't hear that very often. Tell us a little bit about when they come to the event, you'll hear her speak. What other things are you going to be discussing?
We are very excited to preview a handbook. We've created with the State Office of Education a handbook on dyslexia that will help educators and families have better discussions. A lot of times the terminology that we use in education and between families really gets mixed up. Families will be told, oh, we don't deal with dyslexia. We don't talk about dyslexia, and that's not true. We talk about reading. We need our kids to read. We need them to feel successful and empowered. So the handbook will give us some better resources and better structure to have those really meaningful and important conversations.
Madeline, if you could give one piece of advice to maybe a mom or dad out there watching who thinks maybe my child might be dealing with this right now, what would your advice be to them?
I think the main problem that I see is the shame that comes along with it. So if you could figure out how to address the shame, how to empower a child who is dyslexic, how to take the things that they're good at and use those to help them learn the things that they're not, that would be like my one piece of advice. That's the thing that I think most dyslexics struggle with past any sort of formal education.
I agree. Keep the expectations high. Just because you have this one struggle, it does not foreshadow the rest of your life. Keep your expectations high, let them succeed.
Absolutely. Ladies, thank you very much. Very insightful. Okay, what time tomorrow night?
6 o'clock for the dinner, 7 o'clock for the presentation and the speech.
And where do you go for tickets or information?
To Eventbrite, so just Google Eventbrite, Dyslexia Advantage.
Okay. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.